Welcome to Video Game Podtimism. It's the Optimist video game variety show where two best friends and two other best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming. My name is Chase.
My name is David.
Okay, hold on. Before we go any further, I need to share my screen. I'm pausing for dramatic effect until the riff starts.
Sure.
Thank you, Alan Parsons Project. Up first, we have the undisputed champion of crisp cuts and captivating content, the podcast editor extraordinaire, a masterful maestro of mesmerizing modulation, with a mighty microphone in one hand and a magic mouse in the other. This audacious audio artist amplifies your episodes to astronomical levels. Their prowess in punchy pacing, powerful pitch correction, and profound precision cuts is unparalleled. Prepare to be blown away by their brain-boggling balance of breathtaking bass and blissful audio brilliance. It's podcast zone editing royalty, AJ. Crowd goes wild.
Hello!
Hey.
That was wild. Hey, I'm happy to be here. Do the other one.
Not to be outdone, gamers and herpetological, I think I pronounced that right, enthusiasts, get ready to leap into a world of amphibious wonders. In the left corner, we have the unrivaled ruler of the ribbiting realm, the Froggy Podcast host herself, an amphibian aficionado with a flair for fascinating facts and frolicsome fun, with a mellifluous voice that melts like marshmallows and a magnetic personality that mesmerizes the masses and their effects. From the serene swamps to the rain-drenched rainforests, she navigates the vast pond of froggy folklore, unfolding fabulous fables and feats of our fascinating froggy friends. Still on her bullshit, it's Kim.
Hello. That's the best introduction I've ever gotten.
Crowd goes wild again.
That was unreal.
Chase, holy shit.
Wow. I'm honored to be here.
It just kept going.
Yeah.
And then like before you were even done with AJ's intro, I was like, holy shit, there's gonna be a whole other one for me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Unreal. What a treat to be here.
Yeah, I was going to say, every other podcast that has guests, take note.
Yeah,
you
really.
now have this to live up to.
Big shoes to fill.
The verbal red carpet has been rolled out for y'all.
Yeah.
And now, Chase, I feel like if you ever have, in the event you have guests on again, you're really going to have to, you really have something to live up to.
Yeah,
wow.
I've laid a trap for myself.
I sure have.
Yeah, you set the bar too high already. Classic mistake.
If on the off chance I don't have an extra 30 minutes before the next podcast with guests starts, I may be fucked. Oh my God. Do either of you want to introduce yourself outside of that intro, or just say hello or hi?
What could I possibly say that would be better than that?
I'm AJ. I mean, I produce podcasts and stuff. Kim and I co-host a podcast and also co-work on another podcast. So
yeah,
there you go.
Longtime friends of the show, I will say.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
I'm so excited.
Of course.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for taking some time. Appreciate it. And we're going to talk about the video games.
Yeah.
All of them at once.
Okay, everybody. Pac-Man, Pong, Gauntlet. Let's start at the top.
Keep going. There's a couple more.
What is the Dewey Decibel first game? What would be the first game ever made? Or not the first game ever made, but the first game in the Dewey Decimal System.
I think it's Gex, right?
He transcends the Dewey Decimal. He's like, I'm number one.
I don't know enough about the Dewey Decimal System to refute that. So
the Gexy Decimal
right.
System.
It's actually the GUI gaming decimal system, and it's based on whichever is most in most people's hearts. I'm not really sure.
I do not like what you just said.
The GUI decimal? You don't like
now
that?
thinking about like
GUI gaming decimal system? Sounds bad.
I like it.
I'm thinking now what's like the gooeyest game, and I don't like thinking about it.
Splatoon?
Actually.
Or is that the splashiest game? Splooshiest game would be Splatoon.
It's pretty gooey.
It's gooey
paint is
too,
pretty
right?
gooey. Yeah.
I wonder what the internet will say when I say gooeyest video game and type it into Google.
It's got to be like
gotta-
Conquer 64, right? It's got that shit level.
Well, actually, it's Gooey Louie, the board game that you lets you pull out boogers from a man's head.
Oh, that Luigi's Mansion where you play as Gooigi.
Gooigi.
Yeah, come on, it's right there.
There's a whole character of Goo. We forgot. How could we?
Yeah. Nintendo already did it. Move on. We got another.
Yeah.
Do another one.
All right, move this joke on. This is already done. Nintendo already did it.
Well, as guests, I want to offer both of you first rights to talk about the video games you're playing.
Ooh.
Kim, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Why don't you go first? Because I really only have one game to share, and I feel like we need to wet our palates before we dive into mine because it's a little bit strange.
Okay. All right. Then should I start off with my slightly longer one or one of my shorter ones? I have one kind of
whatever your heart calls.
I think let's start off with this kind of short little guy that I have not played much of, but this one comes from Murray in the Worst Garbage Discord.
Sure enough.
A game called Phonopath.
Yes.
It's phonopath.com. It is a browser-based game, and it is really wild. I guess the basic conceit of it is you begin the game, and then you click on a person, and then it brings you to this screen where you play an audio file, and the audio file is obviously backwards. Mm-hmm. And so then there's another button that's just a down arrow, and then you click that, you download that file, and now you can do whatever you want with it. And obviously, if you're trying to do it, you have to go into like Audacity or something, reverse the file, and that gives you the first password, which then gets you into the actual game. And the game is split into 5 levels, or 5 worlds, I guess, with 5 levels each. Every level gets a little bit more. You need more and more audio knowledge in order to get through and get the password to that level. So, so it's a great time. I would love to be able to recommend this like widely, but like there's certainly, it certainly has a barrier to entry that is like pretty high.
It makes sense that it's you and Murray, who I know who played this game.
Yeah, Murray, who is a sound designer engineer. I don't actually know your job title. Sorry, Murray, but I know you work on games and you do sound stuff. Yeah, and honestly, this is like I'm not a sound engineer by trade. Like I'm not there's a lot that I do not know about like the physics of sound and like how waves work and polarity and whatever. All this stuff. And so I'm playing the game and doing my best, or at least trying to figure out like, okay, what do I need to know in order to solve this puzzle? And then I'm watching the developer of the game walk through the puzzles and stuff. So like I can get to the point where I'm like, I know what I need to do, or like I have an idea of what I need to do. I don't really know how to do it. And so now let me watch the person who made the game actually do it. And then and it's interesting. It's kind of becoming this like learning tool for me as well, which is very cool. Cause like in college, I was a media production major, which is separate from the sound engineering major. So I didn't do any of the, like I just said, the physics, the math, the stuff that goes into like actual sound. I just did the like, hey, here's a microphone, here's how to speak into it, and here's how to edit, period. Like that was it. And so this is like a totally different skill set that I'm being introduced to, and it is so cool. And it's an amazing experience. I would say at the very least, I mean, I've already given you the answer to the first one, but I don't think knowing the answer is like that big of a spoiler or anything. Yeah, because like just doing it is cool, because you have to like download a file and then you have to like open it and do something to that file to then get like the actual answer, because there's like a password in there. And so I would recommend at least doing like the first 2 levels, because after that there's like just stuff that's like, unless you know how to like open an audio spectrogram and whatnot, that like you're not gonna be able to. Yeah, see, it's like, and that's like level 3 is like you have to start doing that. It's like, okay, well, pretty quickly there's a pretty steep fall off for the skill level of people, but it's just a really great time. It's fun to mess around with audio, and I like it. That's phonopath.com. Thank you, Murray.
It's very good. I also played a little bit of this, and I am not learning as much as it sounds like you are, AJ.
Yeah,
but it is really neat. It's like almost towards the edge of like an ARG, where you have to like in the real world figure something out to get the password in this virtual game.
That's why I like it so much.
Sure. But it's really cool. Like you, I think that there are a lot of spots where it's like, okay, yes, this is clearly reversed audio. I know what to do with that. But when I'm just like modifying gain levels to see if I can figure out like, where is the password in here? Yeah. Then that's more challenging, but it is really cool. And yeah, it's a very good one for like watching like a let's play of somebody who knows their shit really well.
And that's the cool thing about the walkthrough from the developer, because he's not only just going through and like playing it, he is like talking you through the process that he went through to like make the puzzle, and then also, you know, actually giving you the knowledge to solve the puzzle, and not just like, well, then you do this and then it's done. He's like walking you through step by step. So it is kind of weirdly like taking a course in like how to solve audio puzzles 101. Yeah. It's interesting. It's a great time. Highly recommend.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Murray.
Awesome.
Wow.
I also have just very quickly a game called You Want Those Games, in quotes.
Oh my God.
So here you go. Now let's see you clear them. And this is a game also shared from the Discord. I don't remember who shared it. I'm so sorry. But it's basically, are we all on TikTok? Or I don't know, David, are you on TikTok at all?
For the most part.
Sure. Okay. So
I'm
like,
aware.
I'm sure we've all gotten ads of like, there's like the adventurer guy standing behind like a series of pull pins that you have to pull out. And or the like lady who like is on high heels and you have to collect more high heels in order to be taller, and then you can walk over obstacles that'll make you shorter, whatever. Those kind of games that ads that show up on TikTok or YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels, whatever, that are not real. Like they are not what the game actually is. Somebody went together and made a collection of those actual games that you can really play. And it's just a silly little time. There's just like, they just use like stickmen as the animations, and it's so goofy, and it is just, it's a fun time to just like pop in, do a couple of levels, and then pop out. Do wish it was on mobile, I think is the only thing. It's only on Steam right now. I do wish this was a mobile thing, and honestly, maybe it will be soon. I don't know, but it feels built for that, obviously, because the games that they're emulating are like meant to be played on your phone, quote unquote. But it's a good time, and like it could have just stood on its own as being like a bit game, and that would have been enough for it to just be like a silly little bit. Honestly, like once you get like past the like, you know, we're introducing mechanics, whatever, and then there's like, you get to like level like 10, 11, 12. The puzzles actually do, or for the pin pull one at least, they actually do begin to like kind of make you think of like, ooh, what order should I be pulling these pins in actually? And then like, how are these things interacting with each other? So it's not just like, oh, isn't this a silly bit? It's a silly bit at first, but then it actually becomes like a pretty decently put together like little puzzle game. So that's you want those games, right? So here you go. Now let's see you clear them. Also, great title.
That's a great name.
That.
Yeah,
I am definitely going to check that out.
It's also on Switch.
It is on Switch.
Nice.
Oh, whoa.
Ooh.
Okay.
So is this like a Game & Watch where it's like an anthology, or is it more like a WarioWare? Is it kind of somewhere in there?
It is. I would say it's closer to a Game & Watch, I think, than like a WarioWare, because you are like picking levels and stuff, and like there is a timer where you'll get stars, but it's like you know, you can take as long as you want to solve a thing, but you are like choosing what levels you're doing and what games you're playing.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah, and there are 2 spots on the main menu that I have not unlocked yet, which is interesting. It gives you a menu, and the only thing you can collect is mini games, or the only thing you can click is mini games. And then there's, I think, a gallery, and then another thing that I don't remember what it is. But then there's 2 more spots that I can't click. I'm unsure what they will be, unless there's like a story mode or like an online like battle mode or something. Like truly, I have no idea what those 2 spots could be.
Gotta go rank.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was like. Are we trying to see who can get the most stars on like level 20 pull the pin game? Like what is happening?
Did any of you play Frog Fractions way back when?
No, but I know the lore.
That's an amazing answer to that.
There is.
I don't know Frog Fractions, but I know the lore behind it.
I've read the tomes.
Exactly.
Classics. If you can play Frog Fractions, but it like, I wish what you were describing, AJ, was going to lead to a Frog Fraction situation where like you're just playing these mini games and then something else happens.
Yeah.
That I don't want to spoil, because if everybody hasn't played Frog Fractions, you should. It's fun.
Frog Fraction spoilers.
Honestly, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
for real. Like
That's
from
real,
what I
fair
know,
enough.
there are like I know the basic kind of like the second layer to Frog Fractions, and I'm like what the fuck?
Okay, because when you said Frog Fractions, I thought that my mind went to like a preloaded Macintosh game from when I was in elementary school, where it's frogs teaching me fractions.
Yeah, I was like, this is some Mavis Beacon teaches typing thing.
That is what it is until it's not.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Until it breaks the fourth wall.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You should play Frog Fractions.
I'm interested. This is a very mysterious way of telling me about this game, and I'm intrigued.
I feel like David and I need to play Frog Fractions, and then we'll come back on the show and talk about it.
Changed my life.
Yeah. If you play to Frog Fractions to completion, it will just put your thoughts from the future into the podcast right here, which is crazy.
Ooh.
It's
a fourth dimensional game.
Yeah, it breaks the fourth dimension.
Not just the fourth wall, fourth dimension now. Here we go.
Anyway, that does sound fun, AJ. I will probably also play this.
Yeah, I would recommend it. It's fun. Let's see. The bigger thing that I have to talk about that is a video game, because I do have one thing that's not a video game today, is this game that came out last year called Jack Move, which Chase, I know you played a good amount of. Did you wind up finishing it?
I am inches from finishing this game. Okay. I'm so close, but I haven't yet now.
It's fun. It's basically Chase had this really great, well thought out thread on Blue Sky. Shout out to never mind. Fuck that. I was gonna shout out Jack, but I don't want to do that. I had this really great thread on Blue Sky that is gonna be way more thoughtful than anything I have to say today, because I neglected to even look up who made this game.
It was made by the developer called So Romantic.
So Romantic. There you go. And I know it's on Switch and Steam. I'm not sure if it's on anything else, but I played it on Steam. I recently got a really long HDMI cable for another thing, which I can now connect my computer to the TV that's in this room, because this is also our guest room. So I played it on the TV, and it was a great time. But basically, Jack Move is pretty much a kind of straight up and down RPG game. You are a person with moves, and then you can get basically like Paper Mario badges to make different moves, and you are fighting against bad guys. It's the soundtrack is really good, and it's taking place. Sorry, I'm all over the place right now. And it takes place in this I guess it's post-apocalypse. There's this event that happens in 1997 called The Dark, where there is a solar storm that takes out all electromagnetic waves, or it takes out all electromagnetic waves, and so people can no longer communicate. All the power is out, everything happens, et cetera, et cetera. But we are in this cyberpunk future because the corporations were able to recover faster than the governments were, and they began imposing their will, and then there was this big war, and now it is 2110 or something. So it's been a hot minute, but that is the world that we're living in. Is ruled by corporations. The one that you're mainly fighting against is called Monolink, I think. I don't think I wrote it down anywhere. Yeah, you play as a girl named Noah, who is basically kind of a mercenary for hire in some ways. You just kind of go, you start off at this job where you're just going to hack a thing, and then when you hack the thing, you get money, and that is what your job is. You have a friend named Ryder, who is the canonical man in chair, who is just back at the base doing all the oh, you gotta get out of here, I called you a drone to get the first mission ends with you, or the intro ends with you jumping off the top of a building and him being like, do you trust me, and then you're holding on to a drone that he hacked, and then that drone brings you home. It's fun. I already said this, but the music is so good, and it's almost too good to the point of where you hear some of these songs so many times, you're like, man, I wish I would stop hearing the beginning of this really good song, and I wish it was kind of a Sable situation where it was kind of just ambient in the background, less in your face, because that I think is my one hang up with this game, is that the random encounter rate is the base random encounter rate. It lets you change it, which is great, but the base random encounter rate is too high. You can't go more than 10 or 15 seconds on a screen without running into another battle. And the battles happen, you get through a battle fast enough, but at a certain point you just wind up doing the same 2 button presses in order to get through the battle, and then you run for another 10 seconds and then you're in another battle, and it's oh my gosh. But the music is good. You can change the encounter rate. I never change the encounter rate, because when they introduce that feature, they're if you turn it down though, you might not be balanced for you might not be strong enough for the next area. And so I was always too afraid to turn it down, because I was well, I don't want to be under leveled, because some of these enemies are really hard.
Tough, yeah.
There are some enemies you'll run into that will just basically 2-hit you if you're not paying attention. I would say, even as far as that goes, as kind of an annoyance, it's relatively minor, because the combat is or the elements of the combat are simple enough that you don't have to use too much brain power to get through it. But there are these things called jack moves that you can do, which are basically limit breaks. If you, for those Final Fantasy heads out there, you get hit enough, you deal enough hits out, and this meter builds up to then let you do your jack move, which is a very powerful move that'll like do, 1,500 or 3,000 damage or what. It does a lot of damage. But when you use a jack move, the effectiveness of it is affected by kind of like a really micro rhythm game. It'll give you like 3 button presses in like a pretty quick rhythm, and then you do those button presses and you either get, I don't know, okay, good, or perfect. The animations for the jack moves are
so amazing,
unreal. They are so good. The whole game, I guess, is worth pointing out, is done in this kind of like 16-bit style, right? 16-bit, 32-bit, I don't know.
It looks like a Super Nintendo game.
It looks like a Super Nintendo game, yeah. But the jack moves are like 60 frames per second. Fucking like we're in Call of Duty now, baby. It's like
it's amazing.
They are incredible. They're so much fun to do just because you get to see these awesome animations, and you get them fairly frequently, which I think is awesome. There were times where I was like, okay, well, I should save this for the boss, and then I would use it on the boss, and then I would get it back in the boss battle. And I think through each area that I have done, I'm only like 3 or 4 hours in, so I guess I'm about halfway through the game. Through each area, I've gotten my jack move meter filled by like 2 or 3 times before I even get to the final battle. So it's not like it is a precious resource, but it's not very, very scarce, how I feel like it would be in other games, because I think they want you to see them and they want you to do them and they want you to have fun doing it. The badge system that I brought up earlier to like get new moves is really interesting. There are 3 types of enemies that you can face. They're electroware, cyberware, or wetware. I don't like the wetware ones. I know. It's not great. And all those attacks are like mind goo, and you like throw this like pink ball and it goes like, and like that's the attack. I'm like, I don't love this actually. But
it's up there for gooeyest game.
Yeah,
it's up there for gooeyest game.
True.
And it's effective against it's effective against cyberware enemies, which is great. But anyway, so you can get various hardware you can get various software that will let you execute special moves. That is another thing about this game, is the vocabulary is immense and immediate. It throws words at you that are like, yeah, so you get software so that you can get new executables, which will be better, and then if you run out of data, then you can use a patch to get a data packet to put your data back up, because it costs data to use executables, but you got to make sure you have enough RAM to load your executables up, and all of that is real information that I just said. None of that was made up, but it throws all that at you so soon into the game, like before you finish the first level, the first like tutorial level. It is just pelting you with information and vocabulary words, and it was really hard to get through. And I'm a person that loves to learn rules. The beginning of Citizen Sleeper, where it just throws like a whole Word document at you, I was fully in, because it described it in ways of like, it's like you're rolling dice instead of like just using the vocabulary of the game immediately. I think there could be kind of a level of abstraction from the actual terms the game uses to like, okay, here is your data. Data is what you use in order to use special moves. Special moves are called executables, and then it's, go from there. But instead it takes out the like, this is a special move word, and just like, data lets you use executables. And I'm like, I don't know what an executable is, but okay. But anyway, you play it for, enough, you get it. Speaking of executables, you can use some executables outside of battle, which is great. You can heal yourself outside of battle, which rules. Oh, one final little pain point is when you die, you have to spend 25% of all your experience. You level up your character, but you also level up your moves individually. And every time you die, you lose 25% of your experience, which I just don't like it penalizing you for playing the game. It's not a great vibe, but you do get XP pretty quick. And so it doesn't really matter too bad, but it's a good game, and I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, I don't know, Chase, what was your experience with this?
Yeah, I mean, like similar. It's I hadn't heard of this game, so thanks for finding it.
Yeah, I don't remember how it popped up on my radar last year, but
yeah, so it was like a cool discovery for sure. I think most of what you say stands. I definitely appreciate the ability to kind of turn off random encounters, especially for those moments. Like I get lost in JRPGs really frequently, and being able to be like, wait, where the fuck am I? And like turn the encounter rate down to 0 so that I can just like reorient myself of like where I am is really, really helpful. Cause like I get into those situations. I feel like in Final Fantasy 9, I ran into this a lot of the time where I'm just like, where the fuck am I? I'll just wander around going from one random encounter to the next. I'll put my Switch to sleep for the night after I play. I come back the next day and I'm like, I have no memory of where I'm supposed to be right now.
Right.
And so it's good to just be able to like focus and like get where I need to go. The music is amazing. The like theme song for the main antagonist Crawl is amazing.
Oh yeah.
It like almost sounds like a trap backbeat for like a Denzel Curry song or something like that.
Wow,
Like it's really amazing.
That's a very specific thing to say.
I'll maybe put some of his track or vocals over the track and see if that fits.
I am the one your son don't need a gun to get respect up on the street. Under the sun, the sun will pop the clock to feed himself and family. By any means, your enemies, my enemies, we wet them up like a canteen. Till yellow tape surrounds the face, don't have a face, so now you like open the gates. Right.
But yeah, it's really, really good. I think that the vision of the future is cool because it is very cyberpunky, but it feels like it is viewed through the lens of like a 90s movie or something.
Yes.
Where it has that kind of used future look, but through the lens of like New York City in the 90s. I think I said that in the Blue Sky thread of like, it kind of feels like if the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles live action movie was a cyberpunk film instead.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's cool. I really like it. I don't have like super complaints. I had a good time playing this game.
Totally.
I think the lack of companions does kind of show at a certain point because it's just you in there. And like not necessarily like difficulty battle wise. I was just like, where are my friends? Like it's just Ryder out there talking to me. Like where are my bros?
Yeah.
And so that was like something I was aware of, but yeah, all in all, like pretty impressed by this. I also like, as always, really appreciate a game that is like, yeah, it's like 6 hours and then you can finish it and that's it.
I love that.
Yeah, I don't need this to go for 40 if it doesn't need to go for 40.
Yeah, I think that was part of the reason I didn't pick it up last year, is because I just assumed it was like at least 20 hours because I saw it was an RPG. And I'm like, well,
yeah,
I'm not going to have time for that this year, but it was on sale and it was only 6 hours. So I'm like, okay, great. Yeah.
It's cool. I think what the game is like saying is neat. I wouldn't call it particularly complicated, but there is cool stuff happening with like Noah and her dad and sort of like the effects that loss has on the people in the game.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not like dramatic as far as like, wow, this is like transcendental stuff going on here, but I think it's like well done. And like I said, it doesn't overstay its welcome as far as what it's saying. So I feel like it kind of gets in, says this thing and then gets out, which I like. I feel like with JRPGs of old, like you did kind of have to read into what they were saying a little bit more, and it wasn't always something like they didn't always have something to say.
Right.
And it took something like Final Fantasy 6 or 4 or something like that for somebody to be like, okay, now we're actually trying to do something here with the story. But that's not always the case. Like sometimes it's just a romp, and that's okay too. But I do appreciate it that there is a little bit to dig into, which is neat.
Yeah, and I also like how it kind of curbs. It wants you to know exactly what it's talking about. And as soon as there's one point in the game where like an idea, a pretty philosophical, metaphysical idea is kind of introduced, and Noah, the main character, like brings up, hey, what do you think about this metaphysical idea? And the character she's talking to is like, I'm not trying to have that discussion right now, and just shuts it down. And is like, okay, that's not what the game is about. Let's move on.
Yes, yeah.
Which is very funny. But it's good. I do love the like soft cyberpunk vibe, because it's like, I think it really quickly, I mean, especially with an event called The Dark, I think it's really easy to get like super edgy and cynical about like living in this world or whatever. But Noah seems pretty unaffected by it, like by the way that she's acting. And like speaking and whatnot. It's just kind of like, this is the world it's in. It stinks, but like, also I'm here and I've got friends. So
I feel like cyberpunk media does kind of soak in that tone a lot of the time. Like a lot of cyberpunk media is like, shit's fucked and there's nothing we can do about it. And like, I understand the temptation because that is a real valid feeling living in capitalism in general. But I do appreciate when like post-apocalypse and cyberpunk and any real story where there is like an oppressive state in some way or another, whether that's the environment or the companies. Like I do appreciate when there is a sense of optimism that the characters are able to carry. It feels like kind of radical in certain ways of like, yes, things are fucked. And also, like friends are still the most important thing, or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think you see that in this, and like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom does that too, where these are pretty terrible situations, but look at this weird little guy who wants to sell you this thing, and
Yeah.
he's okay. Like that's
You're talking about
He
Beetle?
is okay.
Beetle's in there. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's Jack move. Yeah.
I have a confession about this game, which is that you guys have been talking about it in like a group chat for a couple of weeks now, and I just assumed that the protagonist was named Jack Move. First name Jack, last name Move. But egg on my face, I guess.
Yeah.
I still think that would be a pretty cool name.
That's
though.
a great protagonist name, honestly.
It's pretty sick.
My name's Jack, and I like to move. I'm ready.
Yeah, that's a different Cyberpunk future game. That's the rhythm version.
There you go.
Shit.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's like in an arcade in Cyberpunk 2077. Jack Move.
That actually.
Johnny Silverhand has all the high scores.
Right.
Oh my God. If I have to hang out with Johnny while I'm playing an arcade game, I'm leaving the arcade, dude. I can't handle that.
And then the final thing that I have today,
Yeah.
it really came stacked with games because I was so excited to talk about a different game than Mass Effect 3.
Wow.
I love talking
I'm
about
going
Mass
to try
Effect 3.
not to be offended at that
Okay,
one.
I love talking about Mass Effect 3 with you, Kim. This is a real
game.
pen and paper RPG, solo, single player, like map filling out adventure game called Miru, and it's a little 30-page booklet. In the beginning of there's a little introduction page with kind of like where you are and kind of sets the stage for the world and what happens and what your motivation is. That ends with your brother passes away due to a freak robot accident, because this also
Lost too many brothers to robot accidents.
This also takes place in a post-apocalypse future. You wake up the next morning just before dawn with your body on autopilot. You watch yourself get out of bed, grab your bag, and pack it with a few essentials. You trek across town, past the spot where he died, and keep walking toward the woods. You pause just before you cross the tree line and take one last look at the village. You turn around and march forward to do what no one else will. The time of gods is over, and you are going to end it. And then there's
It's hardcore.
yeah, and then I'm gonna just shoot a message here in how do you use Zoom?
Oh, I hope you're showing us your map.
No, it's not my map. My map is pretty underwhelming right now. I've only got like 4 locations on it, but there it is.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, I just sent a picture in the Zoom chat of just a full.
in the Zoom chat.
It's a full splash page. Just says "Time to kill God" on it. After that, little bit. So I guess to back up a little bit. The game was created by Kelly Chance, who goes by Hinokoto online and in the world. It was funded on Kickstarter last year. Miru 2, which is MIIRU, was successfly funded and shipped earlier this year, and I did get that as well. It's a little bit thicker. It's almost like twice the length as Miru, but I haven't played it yet, so I don't know what that one's about. But the future it sets up is kind of this like Horizon, Zero Dawn Forbidden West-esque post-apocalypse where there was a time of robots that is long gone and you are living in the aftermath of that. The robots are still around, but they are basically just like they emerge from the woods, do things like kill your brother and then go back into the woods. working under directives that are like, decades, if not centuries outdated now, because these places don't exist anymore. But there is still, I guess, this like main AI or whatever that is like driving or powering these robots that is quote unquote God that we are going to kill.
Horizon Zero Dawn who, dude?
Yeah, it really captures the vibe of Horizon in like kind of a totally different way, which I really love because I really loved Horizon. And so I only played for like an hour or hour and a half before we started recording today, and that was enough time for me to read through the like 6-7 pages of rules and then get through 4 days of map drawing, and it's great. There is a printable hex grid that you can print, and then use that as your thing. But you can also just kind of make your own map if you would like, all that kind of stuff. But it basically functions using D20s to track your health and your energy. At the end of every day, you need to eat and sleep. If you don't, you lose health and energy the next day. And that is tracked by a D20. And then I really just wanted to, this is a stack of D6s in a like leather bound thing.
Amazing.
I don't remember where I got this. I think it came with some like Kohl's.
That's like professional gamers.
Yeah. Well, I opened it up today to like do this and it like flopped open and they're like stuck in there just by like tension. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like a real gamer's D6 stack.
Yeah.
So then you roll a D6 to decide what terrain you're going to, because you are drawing the map as you go. You can either do forest, mountain, grassland, desert, swamp, or if you roll a 1, you get a minor injury, lose 2 health, and don't move on. That's the end of the day. Wherever you land, you then roll 2 D6s, which determines whether you run into an encounter, whether you run into some ruins, or whether something special happens, or if the area is impassable. If the area is impassable, then you can't move on. You have to go back to the hex that you started that day on and then go a different direction. On certain days throughout the calendar, it's a 60-day calendar, and on certain days they are highlighted. There are God events that will happen. And so no matter where you are on the map, your next hex will be, this one has to be a forest, and you're going to run to this thing and then flip to this page and read what happens. And so there are like 4 or 5 of those. I just ran into the first one today, which happens on day 3. And it basically just like introduces the god kind of as a more concrete concept, and also gives you some basic equipment in case you haven't run into a place where you've been able to pick up equipment yet. And so now I would say I'm probably like actually in the game, because the next event isn't until day 15. So I would say the first 3 days are probably like tutorial days, and then you move on. It's great. I'm having so much fun, and not just because the first event I arrived at maxed out my my health and energy. You start at 10, and then when you sleep and you eat, you gain like 2 or 3 of health and energy every day, tracked on the D20s that you have. But immediately the event I found was like, all right, put your health and energy to 20. Like, okay. Cool. So I haven't really been super spooked by the like, I have to maintain my health and stuff, but it's still fun as kind of a narrative storytelling device, because the game also recommends that you keep a journal of the days that you're going through. And so that's also been a really fun kind of little writing exercise. I have a little thread in my personal Discord that I've been writing days on, and it's really fun. It's really fun to kind of inhabit that space and like write a journal as if, because you'll read each ruin or encounter is like half a column, 20 lines of like smallish text, and it gives you kind of a basic idea of the things that have happened. But it's fun to use that as kind of a bouncing off point for like, here's what happened today. I ran into some goats and I couldn't climb the sheer cliff, and so instead I went foraging and I found some fruit. But then write about however much you want. It's really fun. I'm really early on, and so like obviously I think you can die, and like when you run out of health or energy, you're done. That's the end of a run. You're dead. Or you can make it to the end, and I assume kill God. I don't know. But it's great, and it's also been a fun little way for me to doodle again, because I haven't been in a situation where I can doodle in a really long time, because I need both my hands on mouses while I'm working and I'm listening to other stuff, and so I'm not like ever passively doing anything for work, and so it's been a really fun thing to do that. And just generally single player RPGs have been something that I've been trying to get into, but it feels weird to sit down and like play a single player RPG instead of like playing a Tears of the Kingdom or a video game or something. But that's a personal blockage that I'm trying to get past. So I figured, why not do it when I have a reason to talk about it? And so then that's why I played it today.
Amazing.
Glad to be your excuse.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, that's Miru. It's great. I think the second edition and Miru 2 are both available on itch, so you can get the PDFs of those and play them like that if you want. But it's a great time. I'm having so much fun with it.
Cool as hell.
Nice.
I didn't even know that genre existed. That sounds really fun.
Yeah, it
sounds awesome.
I stumbled across, I'm a big Kickstarter head. I love Kickstarter. And they do this thing every March or April called Zine Quest, where they will really promote people making like RPG zines. And not a lot of the time, but like Miru 2 was on there, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I found Miru 1, and they were selling like faulty copies. I guess this one has like a little bit of yellow kind of like misprint stuff. So it was like $4 to get the game. I was like, yeah, sure, why not?
Perfect.
Yeah.
If I don't like it, then it's $4. It's fine. But yeah, it's a whole genre that I am now really, really invested in and want to get more into because it's much easier to organize time with myself than it is to organize time with like 3 or 4 friends. And I get to actually like use pen and paper, which is not a thing that I get to do very often, even when I am role playing with my friends. So it's a great time.
It sounds like a very cool way to generate ideas for other shit too. Like the journaling thing seems like a very cool idea of like, oh, that's a fun situation that I'd love to reuse or something like that.
Yeah, totally. I've already had the thought of like, this would be a fun kind of like weird podcast. Like a narrative style kind of like audio journal situation. But
I have these like I think it's like the story engine cards or something like that, where like have these, it's like a set of cards and they all have like stuff printed on them, and it's like a person, a place, a motive, something that's like contradictory in a situation. And those are like amazing for like generating like D&D stuff.
I love that.
Of like, I just need an interesting character, and then it will kind of spit out some scenarios, and you can like obviously mess with them and be like, that doesn't make any sense, or that one doesn't sound very interesting. But it's really helpful for figuring out like, here is somebody that is not just like a one note character, but like wants something and is in conflict with this other thing or something like that, which is really fun.
Yeah, that's great. I love that kind of world building stuff. I've been really interested in wanting to play The Quiet Year for a while, which is like a classic kind of map drawing world building game. And I just, I haven't ever really sat down and done it, but
Quiet Year is that's like multiplayer, right? I don't think that is there a solo version of that? I don't think so.
You could probably play it as a solo version. Technically you're supposed to pass turns around and like draw a card, but I think you could just do it all yourself. But I do think there is something fun with Quiet Year specifically of like, we're building a world together, and you might think of a thing that didn't even kind of cross my mind, or like you totally went left when I would have gone like backwards, And so I think there's a really fun element of unknowability between the other people playing Quiet Year with you. Also quick, sorry, and then I'll be done. I just want to shout out this solo game called Artifact, wherein you play as a mystical object. So a sword, a shield, a book, a staff, a ring, whatever. You play through the life cycle of this object. And there are like, it gives you like, and then, you're with a keeper, and this keeper does a thing. And then that keeper dies, and you're left alone for, a month, a year, a century, a millennia, so whatever. And then there's music that accompanies it. So it's like 2 minutes of music that you're just supposed to listen to and not do anything else. And then it's like, and then you're found again. Who finds you? What is it? It's crazy. Anyway, that's another one I haven't actually played. I played a bit of it with a friend, but it's actually supposed to be a solo experience that you do basically in the dark. Anyway.
If I may,
please
recommend another solo TTRPG, because funny enough, I had been thinking about bringing this to the show, and then I was like, I don't know, it's been a few weeks since I played it, so I like kind of was like, maybe I won't bring it up. But since you brought up yours, AJ, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, please.
It's called Anamnesis, and the premise of this one's like this is just like pure journaling. The premise is that you wake up with amnesia, don't know where you are, who you are, whatever. And the mechanics are you draw tarot cards to determine kind of like, okay, what's like the general theme of this story, and then you're sort of pulling the minor arcana, which are like, the cups, the swords, the rest of those, to determine kind of prompts that take you through a story of piecing your memories back together. And it is so cool. It took me like an hour, maybe hour and a half to play through it. And it was a lot of fun. So like the way, just as an example of sort of like how it works, the first thing that you do is pull a major arcana. And so it'll like give you your first question that you kind of have to answer. That card, that first like major arcana card that you draw, is fully up to like your interpretation of like how you want that to inform the story. And then you go through the prompt. So mine was judgment. And, you know, the first prompt that I got was like, you know, you wake up somewhere unfamiliar. Where are you? And so I interpreted that as, okay, how about this character wakes up like in front of a gallows in the middle of the night, like doesn't know how they got there. But cool. Like they're like, was I like supposed to be executed and didn't, you know, like, why am I here? And it leads you through this story, and the way that it sort of congeals and like inspires you to be creative is just super, super impressive. It's the first time I've ever played a solo TTRPG, and it immediately got me hooked. So highly recommend it. Anamnesis by Samantha Lee. Super fun.
I think you can download it for like $8 if I'm seeing the correct one.
Yeah, it's nice. I think if I recall correctly, the reason I picked it might have been in one of the Humble bundles. I don't quote me on that. There might have been some other reason that I chose it, and then went and looked. There are actually a bunch of like solo RPGs in Humble bundles, so like look at your bundles and see what's in there, because there's stuff.
There is
stuff. But yeah, I think that might have been why I went with this one first, and it was really great.
It looks like it was also used in an episode of Friends at the Table, so that may also be where some people know about it.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm not familiar with it, but
shout out to Scout.
I did see that.
He's definitely listened to that episode.
Oh,
big Friends at the Table head.
But yeah, it is a really cool way to just like, if you're looking to, I don't know, exercise your creative writing muscles, it is a really fun way to do that. And at some point I sort of was like, I kind of like diverged from the prompts a little bit, because it was just like taking me into a story that like I was interested in. Yeah. So I think at the end it's like you draw another major arcana card, and I was like, I am just going to like decide what major arcana card I want to, you know, to use for this one. Yeah, it's really fun. Strong recommend.
Yeah, that's cool. So I will be downloading this.
Yeah. Let me know how it goes for you, because it's pretty neat. The other thing that I wanted to talk about today, since the only games I've really played otherwise are the game that we're going to talk about later, and the game that AJ and I talk about every week. So
wow, I was like, Kim, I can't believe that you don't want to talk about that game.
The shoe is on the other foot. So this is a game that I stumbled upon on TikTok, and I was like, perfect. Yes. Yeah, this is great. This is going to be good for Podtimism specifically. It's a game called My Little Cera.
Oh, hell yeah. Okay.
Okay. And I'm just gonna read you the description of it on the website. This is a game made by Alex Benson and Gabriel Ches. The description is as follows. The year is 2030. The earth is ravaged. Society is in disarray. Chaos rules the wasteland. Genetically engineered giants known as Oogers are hired to carry important people from place to place. Sweet, sweet Ooger, your assignment is to carry beloved actor Michael Cera from LA to New York.
Jesus Christ.
You know what? I think I also saw this.
Did you see this? I had a feeling, because our For You pages are quite aligned. Yeah. Because we send each other so many TikToks. Yeah, but true. So the way that this works is it's kind of an idle game, but you do have to click to make the Ooger walk. But it's just this giant purple creature that's holding Michael Cera in their hands like a little baby bird. And as you walk, Michael Cera, he has like meters that start to run out. So there's like a fun meter, there is a hunger meter, a sleepiness meter, and a like stinkiness meter. You have to keep, and so you have to like keep him entertained and keep him fed, and put him down for a nap when he needs one, and give him a bath or some deodorant when he's a little stinky. And as you go, you're like making money that you then use at gas stations to like buy more of these supplies. It takes like 15 minutes to play a game. There's kind of like different phases where you have like different scenery in the background, so that's like kind of a fun change of pace, and you can like listen to different CDs as you go. It's very delightful. Highly recommend. I'll put the link in, and it's just like it's just free to play on itch, just like in your browser. I think it was like they created it for a game jam.
I am playing it right now.
I am too.
How's the little guy doing?
He smells now. Oh, he's bored. Oh, and famished.
Yeah.
Oh no.
There's at some point, if you save up enough money, you can buy him for $25 a game guy, a handheld gaming system called a game guy.
Sure, yeah.
Wow. No trademark infringement, and that'll keep him entertained for a good long while.
Wow. The music is great too.
The music is great, and Michael also has like commentary as you go, like when you put him down for a nap, which you do by putting his little eye mask on. He goes, "Oh, bedtime already? Okay." There's a lot of fun commentary when you give him magazines to read. I can't recommend it highly enough. It was a treat. But the first time I played, actually, my boss called in the middle, and Little Cera ended up having to go to the hospital because I wasn't attending to his needs.
Michael.
I know. Oh, but the second time I got him there, I got him to New York safely.
I think it's also worth noting that the main mechanic in this game is you have to click every time you want to take a step. So you got to click a lot.
Yeah, it's the one thing that I would say that makes this game not quite an idle game, because you're actually really working for it.
Oh my gosh.
But transporting Little Cera from LA to New York, like,
it's not easy.
As a hand therapist, I cannot recommend this game with all this clicking. I can't do it. Shit. I can't do it. This is trigger finger waiting to happen.
Surgeon General's warning.
Can cause repetitive strain injury. Be careful.
Thank you, Dr. David.
You're welcome. Not a doctor.
Not a doctor.
Not a doctor.
Play in moderation.
Yes, there you go. Take some stretch breaks. It's good for you.
I was trying to Google this while you were first starting this, Kim, and once you said Little Cera, I realized what I had spelled wrong.
Me too.
In the My Little Cera portion of the title.
Yeah.
This looks amazing. Fucking video games, man.
Yeah.
Like, no other medium has the bravery for this kind of stuff.
For real.
Does Michael know is my question.
It's a great
He's
question.
He's got to know. Someone's have to tweet this to him.
I hope he knows.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the legal implications of it, but one would hope.
Is this a close enough representation of Little Cera to be lawsuit worthy is the question, right?
I mean... I cannot give legal advice on a podcast.
Fair enough.
I'm going to play this game too. I'm going to play this game and do the journaling game and do the tarot card game.
Hell
and
yeah.
I'm going to ascend to gamerdom or whatever.
This is going to be busy this week.
This for you.
Chase all games.
All games. It's me. All gamers. Thank you for this gift, Kim.
Sure. That's all I've got for you.
Thank you. David, do you have any games that you're playing that you wanted to mention?
Just two.
Okay. Yeah, tell me.
So the first one is Mario Party, and I just want to say real fast that I just want to toot my own horn for a second.
Toot away.
I got 220 coins in Mario Party.
Whoa.
Damn.
Wow.
In a single game?
It was like at turn 7. I had 220. It was
Oh
wild.
my God.
I don't know what happened. I just blinked and I was just the wealthiest man in the world.
You made some smart investments early in the game.
Were you able to buy any stars with that Skrill?
See, that was the thing. I was not getting stars. I got 1 star and then it got stolen from me. But I was flush in coins, so I was able to steal it right back. It was great. Birdo, I'm watching you. But yeah, that was insane. And I was playing with Mallory, and she was, I think, both impressed and very upset with me during that moment. So that was also a win.
It's the arc of every Mario Party game.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You're either the villain or you are just filled with rage. Is pretty much how it goes.
Yeah,
that's Mario Party in a nutshell. So still a fun game, and that's really all I want to say about it.
Nice.
And then the other game I'm playing mostly is Tears of the Kingdom, Legend of Zelda. Just a quick update. I did find the Wandering Troop.
Oh, thank you.
I found them.
Oh, good.
I did not look it up. I just stumbled upon them.
Oh shit.
In my stubbornness.
Oh my God.
In my
So
stubbornness,
unnecessary.
it happened.
I also have not found them yet. Now you've inspired me to never look it up.
I'm glad. I'm a natural gamer.
You really are.
No performance enhancements here.
Which brings me to my second point, is that I'm also a hacker gamer now, because I've been doing the duplication glitches.
Oh my God.
David.
Gamer crimes.
David, are you frozen?
Okay, that wasn't just me.
He's got a great smile, though.
Joe Byron got to him.
No.
Papa Nintendo said that I heard that I said duplication glitch, and they just hacked my system immediately.
Shut you down.
They shut
We
me
got
down.
him, boys.
Cut his internet.
Shigeru Miyamoto is rappelling from my ceiling right now with an M16 ready for me.
He does not fuck around.
And he does not fuck around.
I didn't know that the duplication glitch was still in the game. I thought they patched that out.
They keep coming up with new ones.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I got the upgrades for my armor, right? And then I realized I don't want to have to go and farm things for ages to be able to upgrade this. I have one High Nox gut. Why not make it 10? Mm-hmm. And then there's one that still works in the patch where it's like if you are holding an item and then you jump or walk off a small ledge and then go into the item menu again and then press throw and drop at the same time, it both throws and drops the item. Except the one caveat being you can't have like more than 21 at a given time because otherwise you can only have 21 of a single item on the screen at once. Apparently, it's how it works.
Oh my god!
So after I said I'm a natural gamer, I defied myself in true me fashion. But it's still a great game. I'm having a lot of fun with it. The glitch I think just kind of saves me from having to farm things, at least in this instance, because at this point, I just kind of want to see what the game is offering me and not have to go through the tediousness that I find in a lot of other open world games of just having to farm stuff, which is not necessarily why I'm here for this game personally. But you know, and in my quest to find all these fairy fountains, I've just been sidetracked by so many side quests. So Ganondorf is still waiting for me. He's very confused as to I did not keep my appointed time with him. So hopefully he will understand that I've been busy catching horses and just kind of exploring the Gerudo Desert for no reason on a sand seal, because why not? It's great.
Yeah.
Making him wait is kind of a power play.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, he can wait for me. It's fine.
Playing mind games with him.
Exactly.
I got better shit to do.
He's like, I've been waiting here for 3 weeks for you. Ready.
You've just been out there wandering in the wilderness. Like, has anybody seen a troop? Has anybody seen a troop?
Surrounded by 21 diamonds
are just flooding out of your body.
Just slowly falling off a small ledge and then just pooping out a diamond, essentially.
Yeah.
So the game is great.
Yeah.
Is really what it comes down to. Still having such a blast. I am overwhelmed by how much there is in this game because I feel like I've been playing this for a solid month and a half now, and there is still so much I have not done. I still don't have all of the depths found. I have gone to maybe just a handful of the Sky Islands, the ones that are just close, and I just don't even know how to get to some of the really high ones up there. I'm like, how do I do this? Probably more glitching. I don't know, but we'll see. But it's a great game. Yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Amazing. It's still good.
Still good.
Believe it or not.
Still good.
This is the first Tears of the Kingdom segment on Video Game Podtimism, and maybe any video game podcast I've been listening to over the last month that I have listened to.
Oh God.
Have you just been skipping them?
I've just been skipping them because I just don't trust people to like say things that they don't think are spoilers. Because I'm also a pretty spoiler like agnostic person. I don't really care about spoilers at all. But like it's fun to not be spoiled, you know? So I've just been skipping so many conversations over the last month. But this one was a joy to listen to.
Yes, you were probably like on the seat of your
I was ready to just like rip my head. I was like, no.
You've had like 10 cumulative minutes of video game podcast over the course of the last like month.
There was a week there where it was pretty sparse.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to the point where Ganondorf turns you into a duck, right?
Fuck.
Yeah,
of course. When it turns into Untitled Goose Game for a second.
Yeah.
That's the real frog fractions.
the real frog fractions was in front of us the whole time.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
I don't want to start talking about video games, or at least the ones that I've been playing, just because I've really only been playing BioShock 2, which is like a whole thing unto itself. And I just like, I can't right now. I'm going to have to wait until next week.
Yeah.
That's going to be a long pod next week, huh?
I know. See, here's the problem is that one will probably be kind of a lengthy podcast. I am intimidated by the BioShock Infinite episode that we inevitably do, because like there is so much fucking discourse about that video game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the BioShock Infinite podcast that you're going to do, Chase.
Yes. David will be present.
I'm an audience of one. I'm just sitting there.
Yeah, make a double for that episode so you can really hang.
I'll just be yelling obscenities from the crowd. It's going to be good.
Hey, yo, fuck Ken Levine. Both sides is in my ass. We'll get there. It's a lot. And then Pikmin 2, but we'll get there as well. It's a very good game. I'm not going to say more, but like, damn, good ass Pikmin. I think they cracked it finally.
10 years ago, they cracked it.
It's a good Pikmin game, dude.
I believe it.
I guess I'll do Podtimistic thing first.
Yeah.
Okay.
This week, specifically, it is the past writing of Austin Walker. I have been reading an exceptional amount about this fucking video game, BioShock Infinite, because BioShock 2, totally fine. I can digest it. I feel like I've got enough context, and like I read what other people wrote about it just to kind of like get myself ready. But like, it's more straightforward. I feel like there is not as much shit going on there that I'm really like, God, there seems like there's a lot of nuance here. And I don't know if I, one person, have enough context on it. However, Austin Walker was kind of like just getting his foothold in games writing at the time. And he sure did write a lot about BioShock Infinite. And it is good and in not opposition, but there's a lot of stuff that wasn't being said in the industry as a whole at the time that he was like, here you go. Here's a lot better of commentary about this game. So yeah, it's good. I've been thankful for that. I've watched a lot of people's reviews, but like his stuff specifically is like, that is specific and understandable and very good in a way that like I probably couldn't have done this on my own. So shouts out, Austin.
Shouts out.
Thank you, Austin, for all that you do.
It's true. Does anybody else have any Podtimistic stuff fueling them this week?
Yeah.
AJ.
I flip-flop back and forth between whether I wanted to do something that was like hashtag deep or whether I just wanted to say the one that I did wind up deciding to do. Which Amazing. Is, I love, or my Podtimistic thing of the week is made up superlatives for things. I guess that's the word. Like instead of cool in Jack Move, they go plugin.
Oh wow!
And that game is rife with that kind of stuff, and it is just a joy every single time. I love when in lieu of curses somebody says like that's a data dump or something. You know, just like it just. Words that do mean things, but like we're just replacing expletives or affirmatives with them. I just love, huge fan. And Jack Move has that in spades.
In
Frack, yeah,
Battlestar. I'm with you. Amazing. Thank you, AJ.
Yeah, plugin.
That was a plug-in Podtimistic thing. Thank you.
God, it's so bad.
Yeah, it's not great.
With Henshin a Go-Go, would that count?
Maybe, because like you are saying it in a way that's like fuck yeah, but it doesn't mean anything.
It means nothing.
Thank you, Beautiful Joe.
Beautiful Joe. My Podtimistic thing for the week is a good, reliable friend.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like in real life or video games?
Both.
Okay.
Both. But I'm thinking about specifically in Tears of the Kingdom, Penn, the writer for the Lucky Gazette, who's a Rito. What a guy. What a guy. You just follow him around to all the stables. He's always there, just hanging out, being cool, being nice, just on the hunt for a scoop. Always includes you in everything he's doing. He's not trying to like out scoop you or anything. He's like, "Hey, we're in this together. Let's get the info so that the people know." He's about the people, Penn. Wow. And I just like him. And I love that he says "soar long" when he leaves. That's one of my favorite things about him.
Very,
each
very
time.
Good.
Soar long. I love a good pun in a game as well.
Shout out to local journalism.
Shout out. The power of journalism.
Democracy dies in the darkness, guys.
This one's for you. Press start.
My Podtimistic thing is, sorry for it, ludonarrative consistency.
Let's go.
The game that we are about to talk about has a lot of that.
Yes.
Even the parts of the mechanics that I found frustrating, I was able to at least come up with an explanation for like why that serves the narrative. And we can talk about that more when we get there. But I think that shit is really cool, and it's something that it feels like only video games can accomplish. It's good shit.
It's also it's something that video games can fuck up really badly too. So it's great when they do it right.
Yeah.
That's an amazing segue, actually. Why don't we kick on over to the other segment, huh?
Wow.
Woohoo.
Let's do it.
Hey, it's Good Games. It's a segment where we talk about the okayest games of yesteryear. And gosh, all the things that we love about him. Now you two get to experience the jump scare of starting a segment like that.
Started every time.
Yeah, no, I usually try and pick when David is the most unsuspecting, and then start the segment. Then.
Lull him into a false sense of security.
Yeah.
Chase wields this power.
Yeah,
that was wild. We were like 88% of the way through a conversation. There was like a couple second silence, and then we're back.
There was a few more. So yeah. At the end of that conversation before we fully ended it.
Yeah, it had a little bit more juice to go, but
okay. Well, wow, we're here. Good games.
So this is a segment where we talk about the okayest games of yesteryear and gush all the things that we love about them. We have a game suggested by AJ.
That's me.
This one.
They're here.
How did you come to find that you wanted to play this one, AJ?
That I wanted to play it? This is a game that I've wanted to revisit for a while.
Yeah.
I had played it back when it came out in 2013, and I've just, I ever since I finished it, I'm like, this is going to be a game that someday I will want to come back to and play and experience again.
Yeah.
And so it's just been on that list, and I've been waiting for like the right time to do it because it feels, it's one of those things where like, I feel like you have to wait at least like 3 years to play it again, and I'm like, do I want to pull the trigger now? Because what if something happens next year and I like need to play it, you know, like what if emotionally I need to play this game or something? Yeah. So that I felt like Good Games was a perfect opportunity to not only get me to play it again, but to get my friends to play it.
Yes.
Because I think this is a game that like the resties are doing the required gaming list. And I feel like this is on there. Like it should be on there on my gaming required list. Like I feel like this is a game that people should play. And should experience, and it is short enough that I don't feel bad like really, really pushing it down people's throats. Like you should play this game. It's only 3 hours.
Yeah, and it is pretty quick.
Yeah, and there it's doing some shit.
This game, of course, being Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted me to say it or if.
That's fine. We built it up.
Built it up.
No, I think you're right. Though, like it came out in like 2013, which is like I feel like indie games were not quite a thing yet. They were like just kind of starting to get their foothold. Like Braid had come out, and Bastion had come out already.
Yeah,
so
we had
like,
Indie Game the movie, that stuff.
that is true. So we had Meat Boy. But yeah, I feel like it was doing stuff that like is more considered from like a games perspective than I think a lot of games were at the time. And like, this is also the year that BioShock Infinite came out. And there was a lot of like discourse around like, why are we still just fucking shooting people as the main mechanic?
Right.
And Brothers was like, what if you were just a Brothers? And that was the game.
You were just a Brothers.
You were one Brothers.
Before we get ahead of ourselves too much though, can I hit everyone with some hot stats?
Oh my God,
about this video?
Oh, lay it on me.
Cool.
Hot stats.
So, I'm sure this sounds weird without the
I was
stinger
literally
for
about to
the
say
two
this
of you.
feels really weird without the sizzling sound in the background, but
Yeah.
Continue.
Apologies. So this came out towards the end of 2013 for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. They came out on like kind of different days, but yeah, towards the latter half of that year. And of course, Amazon Luna in 2020. So just in time for that one.
Haven't thought about that in a hot minute.
Amazon hadn't either. They had already forgotten about it by the time 2020.
Joseph trying to get it on the ground floor of Amazon's new...
So this was made by this company, Starbreeze Studios, who you'll probably know from, they made the Chronicles of Riddick game. That's mostly just bait for David to say, ooh.
I mean, I was interested. You didn't see my face because my internet is bad, but it made an ooh look for sure.
Yeah, I knew it was there. I could feel it. They also made The Darkness and Payday 2 and 3. So some video games. This also, the director of this game is the dude Josef Fares, who you probably know him from making A Way Out and It Takes Two, and he's also the Fuck the Oscars guy.
What is this? Is it interactive gaming? Look, I'm just saying this. Fuck the Oscars, you know? Fuck the Oscars! Fuck you! I'll tell you! I'm just like...
You know him.
You know him.
When he said curse words.
When he did a cuss in front of gamers.
Yeah, when Jeff Keighley was really trying to recover from a man saying the F word next to him. A thing that hasn't happened since he was 14.
Jeffy can't handle this, Joseph Fares, please. So yeah, I'm sure we'll touch more on Joseph in a second here. I do have a review from Joe Video.
Oh my God, I forgot about this. How did I forget?
I couldn't.
I've been looking forward to this all day.
I was really worried that Joe Video wasn't going to have a hand on this ball and that I'd have to be like, this one's from Games Cult or whatever. But no, Joe had a hand on this ball. I took their review, which was originally in French, and ran it through Google Translate a number of times, mangling it up real style, hard style to get it. You know, that's something I heard Tim Robinson. No, that's the guy from the show.
Yeah.
What's
Tim Rogers?
The video? Tim Rogers. Lord have mercy.
Hello.
I heard him say that, and then I wanted to say it too. So here we are. I mangled up the review and spat it back out in English to get an artist's interpretation. So without further ado, Joe Video said, "Do you like good stories? Aren't you afraid to try new types of games? Brothers, it's about your two sons. This provides a real functional application that is very useful for articles. Get ready to dive into the amazing places that are hard to leave. This is the main weakness of this article. I hope that this was a wonderful trip and will last longer than you will enjoy it." And they gave that a 17 out of 20.
Oh my gosh.
Not the dive language in there. Jesus.
There was a moment there where it sounded like this was a review for like Microsoft Excel.
Yeah.
It sounded like the Shitty's 90 commercials.
This provides a real functioning application that is very useful for articles.
Yeah, that's the part.
It also kind of felt like they were reviewing My Sons for a moment.
Yeah.
Very aggressive. Never met your sons, but I'm reviewing them right now. Get ready.
God.
And lest we forget, they hope we
Enjoy it. Play it longer than we enjoy. Is that what it said?
It's just nothing. There's nothing behind those eyes.
Wow. A 17 out of 20, though. That's great. They loved it.
Yeah, they did like it.
Yeah.
Brothers, it's about your two sons. David, could you tell me what this game is?
Yeah, this game is essentially a third-person puzzle adventure game for the most part. Some platforming elements, but I wouldn't say it's like the main thing of that game. But the main draw and what makes it interesting and different is that it's conceived as a single-player game where you play as two different boys, two brothers in this game.
It's about your two sons.
About your two sons. One son is left thumb and the other son is right thumb. And you control them with each one of the different control sticks. And then there's also just interact buttons. So each brother moves and interacts with the environment, and that's pretty much all you do. And you just have to use them both in conjunction with each other to solve puzzles and get around. And the game makes really good use of that concept. There's a lot of really interesting things that go on in this game, I think.
Brothers, it's about your two thumbs.
It's about your two thumbs. It sure is.
Wow.
I love how you talking about interacting reminded me every time you interact with a PC, the two different brothers have a different interaction with them, which is such a treat to like see their personalities in this game that has like, it has dialogue, but it's in I believe a made up language. It was no language that I recognized. Yeah. And so like that is basically the only way, aside from the like very few cutscenes where you actually get to like understand a little bit more about the personality of these two characters that you're playing. And I think it's super well done.
Yeah. One of my favorite, like the brothers interact differently moments is every well you go to, the older brother just like looks down and the little brother spits into it every time.
He is an animal, that little guy. He's a menace. I literally wrote in my notes, Greg is a menace, because I started calling them Greg and Wirt after the brothers from Over the Garden Wall. I said, Greg is a menace. He just freed someone's pet bird. Because that's one thing he does. You come across a bird cage and the older brother just sort of like looks at the bird. I think maybe like makes some like sounds at it. And then the little brother is like, I'm just going to open this cage and free this person's pet.
Wild.
Greg's a traumatized little menace.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. God, where do we start? I feel like there's so much with this game that like we can get into. I feel like it's saying a lot, but there's like ways that we can talk about it that maybe aren't as spoilery at first, but like probably just heads up that there will probably be a fair bit of spoilery stuff happening in like 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
and like I said, the game is 3 hours long and you should play it. So
you should
pause the podcast, play it this afternoon, and then listen to the rest of this podcast this evening.
It's worth playing. Even as like some of the mechanics I think are a little bit frustrating, as I alluded to earlier, because you're really having to like wrap your mind around like controlling these. It's basically like tank controls for these like two different people, which is very challenging and largely like a fixed camera angle. The worst part for me was the rowboat. There's a part where you're on a rowboat. You have to like, that just broke my brain. I know how like rowing a boat works until I played this, and I was like, I don't fucking know. But I will say, I think that actually serves the narrative quite well in retrospect, because you're basically, it helps fill in the gaps of like the relationship between these two kids who like, you know, there's like a significant enough age gap that like one of them is clearly in a kind of like responsible older sibling role, and then you have Greg, who's like a little terror. I'm being hard on him. He's sorry, I'm being hard on my sons.
It's about your two sons.
It's about my two sons. But I like, after I played it, I was like, you know what? I am going to fill in my own narrative there that is just the difficulty of these two brothers having to work together to go through this like very arduous journey. And that made me appreciate it a whole lot more.
Yeah, I think that's totally like the way to read it. Like, I don't think you're stretching there, Kim. And I think there is a world where like maybe I'm giving the devs too much credit, but I don't think so. I think that is the point and like part and parcel of getting the game is like struggling with the controls. And because like you are controlling the older brother, like David said, you're controlling older brother left thumb and younger brother right thumb. And a lot of the time, I mean, I found myself moving in one direction with the older brother and then moving the right stick in the opposite direction, because in my head, the right stick is the camera. And I'm just like by default trying to keep the camera behind the character, which then caused the little brother to run the opposite direction. So it does cause you to, or it does require you to kind of rewire your brain a little bit, but never in a way that I feel like it's like really, really hard or like it's really unforgiving. I feel like for the most part, it's tough enough that it's like noticeable that it's hard, but it never feels like it's never gating progression because it's so difficult to control them both.
This is not the Dark Souls of Sons.
No, definitely not.
No. My dark sons.
I said this as a kind of a joke in our like Discord chat about this, but it's kind of also true in the sense that like I am very used to controlling characters with my left thumb, and I am very much less accustomed to doing that with my right thumb. And so like inherently to just playing and like physically with the game, the older brother is tied to the left one. And so I'm like comfortable with that. So he looks more comfortable wandering around the world, where like Greg is just wandering off in a weird direction. And so it does kind of do a little bit to characterize the fact that like this kid doesn't necessarily know how to navigate this world just by the fact that he is right thumb Greg, you know?
Right thumb Greg. It's his nickname.
It's I think it's worth pointing out like just kind of the setup story-wise of this game.
Yeah.
It essentially like the very first scene is, I think, Greg in this case, standing at a grave, and it flashes back to his mom drowning at sea. Brutal.
And him not being able to save her specifically is what's so rough about it.
He's trying and is not able to do it. And
he's all right thumbs.
He's all right thumbs. He can't do it. And so it cuts back to him at this grave, and he's like clearly upset about it. And the game kicks off, and like your older brother's like, all right, dude, come on, let's like start this game. And you take your sick dad on like a cart down to like a doctor, essentially, who like shows you a scroll. I'm like, at first I was like, I guess he's just giving us an adventure. Like looking back and like reading through the wikis, essentially telling these kids that they have to go to the Tree of Life and collect like water to save their dad. And like it seems like, I don't know, kind of not a simple setup, but I think the stakes are very clear of like these people have already lost a parent, and they're both being like, we can't do it again. We can't lose another one.
Yeah. This game, the story of this game feels very, and like a lot of the things that happen feel very much like, it reminded me of like a Grimm's fairy tale that I had never heard before. Like not only in terms of like, there are like trolls and giants and whatever, but like the tone where it's, you know, it's sort of lighthearted and a very, like you said, Chase, like a really simple premise that is almost like archetypal, but it is so dark at times, like pretty much like from the jump with you watching this kid watch his mother drown. It continues to do that, but like the emotional moments are like interspersed in a way that I think is like sort of impactful, where like you can be going along kind of just like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, spit in this well and like talk to this NPC and like fuck with them or whatever. And then all of a sudden, you know, you were hit with this like emotional gut punch that I think it's like, it makes it very effective when those moments happen.
They it feels like they give you enough downtime to like recover and be like, okay, I'm just hanging out with my brother and we're a bunch of silly dudes. And then they'll hit you with something else. And I think like for the most part, I think with the exception of one, most of those moments are earned. The like kind of darker moments where it's like, this is pretty fucked up, but like the game feels like it's earned those. There's like one that we can get into, or like
I think I know which one.
Is it the one with the house that burns down? That's burned down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like about halfway through the game, you show up to this house and like there's a guy attempting suicide. Like is attempting to hang himself, and you go over there, and I don't know if you don't try to save him what happens, but I had tried to save him and you get him down. He's still like very clearly upset, and you can like see to the side of him that there has been a house that is burned down and there are bodies under like
a blanket,
blankets. And I was like, I was sitting there like, okay, fuck, well clearly this is the next major beat because that's heavy as shit. And then I'm like, do we leave now? What,
just
like,
like,
what
right,
am I supposed to do here?
Yeah, when you interact with him as either brother, he just cries, like it's like sobbing into his hands, and there's like nothing you can do to comfort him. And it's like, I don't know why it's there, if it's just to sort of demonstrate like this is like a tough, cruel world, or I don't know.
That's an interesting beat. I played from the beginning of the troll mine to the end of the game. I played holding a controller. I was older brother and my partner Tara was younger brother, and we got past that part and we ran away, and she was like, well, what happens to him? And I'm like, I don't know, I didn't remember that part, and so I think nothing happens and it's just really sad, and there's like no really real reason for it or anything.
It like, I think the game is like in broad strokes about grief and loss, like as like that's kind of the thing it's exploring. And I think in every other instance that makes sense. Like it starts with the brother and the brothers and their mother, the threat of losing their father again, or losing another parent, their father. It goes on with the troll who's like separated from his wife, which we can get into all of these in a second. But like there's this guy, there's the bird later on, there's these like towns that have just been destroyed, and then eventually the big thing we'll get to. But it's all over there. And most of those are like, they just don't feel quite as heavy as that one. Like, I think to invoke something as serious as that without really saying something or like having that be a moment or a plot beat or something that happens feels kind of like, I don't know if we needed that in here, y'all.
It's not even like tied to something else that you see before or after too. Like if it was like, you know, I don't know, the like evil like cultists that you run into at some point, if like it had been their doing, or if it had something to do with like the giants or something, you know, like if there were some like narrative thread, at least it would have been like, okay, this is like either foreshadowing or like putting a sort of like, not bow, but like, you know, a period on like one of the beats that you go through in the story. But it's it feels like a weird outlier.
If I'm being really, really generous, it's like, well, sometimes people are just sad and there's nothing you can do about it. But it's like, this is not the way to do that.
Like, there's a cleaner way to get that point across.
There's 100 different ways that you could have done this that did not involve invoking a lot of any of the imagery that is there. It's rough. Anyway.
I think that is the kind of one spot that doesn't work though, because the rest of it really does for me.
They do a good job of juxtaposing just like this whimsical look at this world and then having these intense moments of, like you said, grief. And they always usually work pretty well and drive it home decently enough. But yeah, it's going to be, it was a very interesting experience to have this very like whimsical fairy tale look at this world. It felt like I was looking at it through the little brother's point of view more than the older brothers, because there was like foreboding imagery, but also this sense of fairy tale whimsicalness to it all in how it was presented, which I think really also added to how intensely you felt those moments of this world is very complicated and there's more going on underneath the surface than maybe you're seeing or wanting to see.
Just out of curiosity, I know some of us played this solo and some of us played this with co-op. Kim, were you also solo there?
Solo, yeah.
I did too. So AJ and David, the two of you played it with co-op,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, co-op. I played it the first time solo back in the day. But and so I started playing this. I started this playthrough solo, and then I got to the troll mine, and I was like, you know what, Tara, do you want to play this game with me? And I really didn't want to sell it too hard. It's like you're gonna be really sad at the end. Yes.
Yeah, because that'll,
Yeah, and she even told me, like, after we finished, she was like, if you'd pushed it any harder, I probably wouldn't have played. And I was like, okay, good, great. But she was glad she played, for the record. I wanted to have a different experience. I kind of wanted to have a fresher experience with the game and to just kind of like feel what it was like. And I mean, can I talk about it for a sec? Like what it was like?
Oh yeah,
okay.
please.
And it was this like totally new experience, even from when I had just started playing it, you know, the hour or so that I played by myself. It was totally different because, like, you know, like we had said, the little brother being the right stick and, like, you know, feeling weird to move around and whatever, like that's one feeling, and that's, like, I think totally intended. But also playing this where you're only holding half the controller and somebody else is holding the other half, especially when that person isn't, like, quote unquote
a gamer,
like doesn't really play games that involve, you know, moving a camera around or whatever, or like using the right stick with any sort of dexterity. It was that same feeling of like, oh, something about using the right stick to use this character feels wrong, but now I have to try to explain to another person what we need to do in certain situations, because, like, you know, I feel like after playing games for such a long time, eventually your brain starts to process things in a different way, and you start seeing things and patterns and whatever. And so, like, Tara is not at that level yet. She's not on my level, is what I'm saying. And so there were certain times where, like, I need to, you know, there's in the troll mines, I guess there's like those things you need to push into like the arcs in order to activate whatever, and to turn them, one person has to push, one person has to pull. And so like guiding us through that, and then us figuring out together, like, who is pushing, who is pulling, like all that stuff was like a completely different experience than like trying to do it in your own brain. Yeah. And I think both of those experiences are really great. And I don't know if I would like recommend one over the other. I think if it's your first time playing, I would probably recommend doing it yourself, if only to experience the end of the game. Because I think that works really well as like a solo the first time. But it was great. I had such a great time, and like the farther and further into the story we got, the more of a grasp Tara was getting on the mechanics, because they're so simple. There is an interact button and there is a move button, and it's like, well, if I walk up to something and hit interact, I will either do something or I won't. And if I don't do anything, then I'll just move on to something else. And so it was great. By the time we got to the part where you're in the broken down giant tower and you have to like swing each other on the ropes, we were flying. We were pro gamers at that point. And it was great. It was so much fun. Highly recommend if you play this game by yourself and you have a significant other or person that you care about that you also want to play the game, play it using the same controller. It's fun. I like it.
Yeah, it's very simple controls. So pretty much most folks, I think, if they're at least familiar with playing a game before, are going to be able to grok it at some point. And as someone who didn't play it single player beforehand, I definitely want to go back and now play it single player just to see what it's like to control both the characters at the same time, because it is definitely a very different experience just being one person. You have a lot more control. Like, I was little brother, and it was, you know, pretty easy for me to go around the world, and Mallory got it really quick. So it was I mean, it's a great experience. And I think just especially like that ending portion, because I had no idea what to do at the very end, and then it kind of dawned on me. I'm like, oh no, Mallory, you have to push forward. And I was like, whoa, that was a great moment. It was really cool. We'll get more into that later.
It's interesting to hear about like the different experiences with like the different control setups and whatnot. Because I imagine that like that also plays into how the people who you're playing with and you yourself are interpreting the characterization of the brothers. Like if the little brother is constantly the one who is like just beelining for the objective and the other one's kind of wandering around, then that would lead to sort of a different story. And I think both work because the game is usually like not sparse with its characterization, because you can like go spit in a well or whatever and your other brother will not. But like there is more characterization there than just the things that they have authored specifically that you can kind of interpret on your own, which is cool. It's a good video game.
Yeah. I mean, I named them Greg and Wirt. So like, you know, there's already like characterization being painted onto them by me in my playthrough. That is like, so, you know, a lot of it is supported in the, in the text, but it's also just like, it's also the trope of like older sibling and younger sibling and how that relationship interacts. And so it's very well done.
I think they're just basic enough, like of archetypes, and that they are like, you kind of basically get it, and then the rest is like a blank slate for you to fill in with whatever you want, which I think is it's great. It really helps ground you in a world where you can't understand what anybody is saying and you don't even really know what your objective is, because you just walk up to people, open the scroll, and then the person who you show the scroll to says and they point in a direction and you're like, okay, I guess I'm going this way now.
I think that stuff works. I think that like the sparseness of the storytelling is something that does work for me. I think it lends credence to the idea of like you're kind of experiencing a myth or a fable or something like that. The details are not necessarily the reason why you're here.
Yeah. It helps too that so many of the like areas that you're in are extremely rich in like their lore and their sort of like environmental storytelling, and the, you know, like the village feels very lived in. I just have to shout out, there is a part where the area that you're in is like the battlefield of a recent battle between giants, and your puzzle solving to get through that area is literally moving the corpses of giants out of your way so you can proceed. And it is so clever and like fucking harrowing, like so gruesome, but just like captivating in like the story that it's telling and the way that the mechanics work. And, you know, the idea that you have to like use a crossbow to like pull a crossbow back and launch it so that you can like knock over the body of a giant that was sort of like sitting upright. And I mean, it's so cool, the different ways that they have you move through that. And it is, you know, it helps, I think, that you have this like very, very simple story that is painted on like this canvas of a really fascinating world. Yeah. Love that shit.
I think that specifically helps you get more into the mindset of like a child, like as you are playing this game, because, you know, especially as the younger brother, I would assume that he doesn't know much of like what actually goes on in this world. So you're kind of experiencing these things for the first time with these two young children. So it really goes to like this, it does a great job of like showing, not telling. So it makes this very rich world that you're kind of experiencing with these kids, because it seems like they don't really know what's going on either. They're just as much in the dark as you are about just this world that you're traversing, and it's kind of mystical and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah. There's so much eco in this game. And like you could pretty much describe eco as two characters in a terrifying world trying to like figure out their way, which is both of these, which I really appreciate. Like Eco is a beautiful video game that like definitely influences people, but it's rare that for me to see something so direct like this of like, oh yeah, it's all over this game, especially with the bits where you go and like sit on the benches and just like look at the world with your brother.
Yeah.
Good as hell. Love that shit. It's so amazing. If for nothing else, then just like a way to reflect on like, okay, here's the level we just went through.
Or here's where you're going. Sort of like a preview.
There's a river of blood down there.
Yeah. I wonder what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. Oh man.
But yeah, it's just like an amazing way to have those like downbeats essentially, where things have happened and now you get to like chill for a moment. It's the rest notes, I guess.
Is it time? Is it time to...
I was going to say, do we need to talk? Are we talking about the ending now?
Yeah, why don't we talk about the ending? So essentially what happens is like there's a bunch of plot beats that we can touch on if we want to, but once you get towards the latter half of the game, you encounter this like mysterious woman who seems to want to help you and like is drawing you along to maybe hopefully help you get to where you need to go.
Yeah.
Was also shown to have superhuman strength and agility as well.
Yeah.
Well, you rescue her from being sacrificed. In a ritual of the giant's blood by disguising yourself as their god.
That part was great.
So good.
So
amazing.
and I think that's just to quickly touch on that. I think, Kim, that's a great example of like the levity that we're bringing to this like crazily intense situation. Like you're not only covering yourself with the blood of a giant, you're like walking through 24 cultists and their leader to like save this woman who is like very clearly about to, or they think that she's about to be like devoured or whatever by their deity, and you're just like the little brother's just standing on the older brother's shoulders, and it's so absurd and like would be I think could have been like really really like heavy, but I think is pretty light all things considered.
Also could have like the balance in itself is like very impressive. Just like that could have been like, this is so goofy, like, this doesn't fit at all, but they strike a good balance.
I think it's because the previous 10 minutes you're like mutilating the corpses of giants in order to get down there, and then you're like finally down there, and you have to like you have to coat yourself in their blood, and I think the only way to like balance that out is for you to just like play do a piggyback ride and then pretend to be a god.
The younger brother's also like trying to make sounds.
It's so cute.
They pretty much just did the two kids in a trench coat trying to pretend to be someone older.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just such a classically kid thing to think up to do. Be like, all right, let's pretend to be something big and scary. Get on my shoulders.
Yeah.
So anyway, you move through there and you go through like this village with some kind of invisible monster in it with this lady, which is spooky, but
spooky.
It's cool. They never show you what the monster looks like. It's just you see its footprints wandering around in the city.
Tara had said, I'm not looking forward to a bunch of snow falling on its back and we see like the outline of it, and that just doesn't happen.
Yes. I think there's a lot of restraint there. I'm sure also it's like hard to make a monster in a video game, but still like it was cool.
But not
they made it work
scarier sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. But anyway, you escape back to this woman who like apparently lives in a cave, and then older brother's like, no, dude, fuck it. We can stay here for a little while. And
she gives him a little kiss.
Yeah. She does.
Before they go in there, and there's some romance brewing. And
younger brother's like, come on, dude. We're so close. And he's like, I don't know, man. I might get another kiss or something.
Right.
Just be cool.
Just be cool, bro.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Anyway, they go in there. She, of course, turns into a spider.
Of course.
Obviously.
And,
we all saw it coming.
Well, you saw her egg sacs like
oh my god
in the tunnel when you're going through, because you just
that part is so well done.
That was great. It's like, no, little brother was right. We are going into danger.
Yeah.
It's like you see other it's like a cross section of this tunnel basically where you see them going through, and you can see other areas where there are egg sacs and things, and you're like, oh shit, this is bad news. Like
bodies
before the
bundled
characters up. It's really good.
She's also following you from behind as like a human still, but like there's kind of this thread of like, you got to keep moving. Like you're not going to be able to go backwards, which was great. But anyway, she turns into a spider. You fight her. Your little brother turns into like a super monkey ball.
It's great.
I don't know why, but they really let you get going fast in that thing.
Some speed in that thing.
I was pulling off her legs, and it changes the camera angle, and Tara was still running around the outside, and so I was pulling off a leg, and the little brother would just go, and just like fly by the camera and keep going. It was so funny. We were dying laughing at that point. I knew it was coming, but it was still fun to laugh in the moment.
Reminds me of those spheres that motorcycles would go around at the circus. That's what it felt like.
Yes.
The speed.
Anyway, so that fight ends. You beat the spider, but in the wrestle that she does with your older brother, she like stabs him with presumably some kind of like poison or something. But it also like, it looks like he's bleeding a lot.
She
so it may
stabs him
just
like
be
right
like
in the chest.
It was a pretty good stab. It was a pretty good stab.
So you as both brothers kind of stumble out of her lair and out into the like tree of life. Older brother's like, no, dude, like just go get the water. Like he didn't say this, but presumably it was like, I'll be fine. Like go deal with this. You as little brother go up there and like do this puzzle on your own, get the water, come back down, and your brother has died.
Yeah.
which was brutal. And they sold that moment really well because younger brother also like tries to give him some of the tree of life water, and that doesn't work. Tough moment, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really relish in it in a way that I do think is earned, but it is like it just keeps going. But I think it is one of those things that's like, if you're alone with your brother and they just died, like, what are you going to do besides like freak the fuck out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
no, I think anything short of what they do would feel like that's it.
A little,
like,
Yeah.
It was fun to do. Sorry, it feels weird to say this was fun. It was fun to do that moment with Tara. Because as she was going through doing the tree puzzle, my hand was still on the controller. You get back down, the brother is dead, and the little brother starts shaking him. And then like not until after he tries to give him the water, he tries to give the older brother the water, I had my hand on the controller until that moment. And then she said, he's not dead, is he? And then I took my hand off the controller and she went, she like fully gasped.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a really interesting moment to be able to kind of like co-author in some ways. Yeah. And then she, thankfully, honestly, she just kept holding it with her right hand and did not put her left hand on it.
Wow.
Yeah, for a bit.
Yeah. It's wild because like it should be obvious going into this that like that is an emotional thread that the storytellers can pull on to like, to end this game. And it didn't occur to me once at all. It was not something that I ever thought like, oh, I bet one of these brothers is going to die. And in retrospect, it's like such an obvious thing, but it's like, I think it's part of the fact that it's so inherent to the controls.
Absolutely.
You think that you have both of these brothers in the game that it didn't even come to mind.
Yeah, they both kind of feel like the main character. And it's like, well, they're not going to kill the main character because then who am I going to play as?
Yeah, exactly.
They also make you bury your other brother.
That happens.
Yes.
That really does happen.
That was, I think that's the part where I put in chat, fuck you, AJ.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm glad I played this game. But in the moment, I was like, nope, we're not fucking doing this today. Not today.
And the whole time, he is just like, the little brother is just like scuffing his feet, head down, just like
dragging him,
sobbing.
Yeah,
oh my God.
He's doing the George Michael from Arrested Development. Charlie Brown walk.
But like, so really brutal, but I think like that part serves the end of the game so well.
So earned.
Essentially what happens is that you leave, you bury your brother and leave and go back to get your dad.
Well,
this,
you don't
like,
just
water.
leave, Chase. The hippogriff that you saved, the
Right,
hippogriff you
right.
saved from the cage that then flew you over to where you needed to go, and then presumably died.
Yeah.
I thought he died. Yeah.
Shows back up and it's like, hey, I'm not dead. Weirdly kind of not weirdly, but like kind of grief counsels the little brother, like gives it a little like wing hug, and then the little brother goes to like look back at where the older brother is buried, and it kind of like puts its wing around him and like pulls him back, and it's like, okay, we can't just stay here and be sad. We have to like leave. Your dad is still sick. Whatever. Presumably the hippogriff knows all this.
I know your dad.
Very smart. This is Dad's friend Jim from work.
Yeah.
We need to go save Ronald.
And then you fly into the sunset, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And arrive back at the village at night.
The hippogriff like drops you like kind of far, not far from the village, but like
Tara was like, it could have dropped you off like right where you needed to be.
at the doorstep. Yeah.
He had to go. He's a bowling night.
He drops you off just far enough to get an emotional beat from the rest of the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we haven't mentioned this yet, but the whole time the younger brother is not comfortable with swimming.
Yes.
Presumably either because he never learned and also because his mom died in water. So like he's not great at swimming. And you come upon an area where you have to swim to get through. If you just move your brother into the water, it doesn't work. He just sort of like shakes his head no and won't do it. And a cool trick that they've been doing this whole game is that whenever you swim with both brothers, you have to get in the water and then as the older brother hold down the trigger so that you can hold your little brother on your back to allow him to like swim with you to get through the area. But initially you're like, at least I did. The player was like, well, fuck, I can't do it. Like, I don't have my older brother here. Like, I can't get through this part. Of course, the solution being that like you have to hold down the trigger still and little guy can swim through the area. That's amazing. That was
really good.
Pseudo-narrative consistency.
Yes.
It's really good. I had the same experience where I was like, okay, do I have to just like walk into the water? No. Do I have to hold, the right trigger as I walk in with the right joystick? No. And I sort of like wandered for a little bit and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And as you do, you like hear like an echo of the older brother's voice and
the controller rumbles a little bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as you proceed, you basically go back and do a bunch of the early puzzles that you did before. And it's the same thing where there were certain things that only the older brother can do. And now you as the little brother can do them, like pulling like a really big lever that only the older brother could pull earlier. And now you can do both of them by holding both triggers. Yeah. It's good shit.
Yeah.
It's really well done.
Unreal.
It's amazing because it's saying something about loss, right? Without them speaking a word.
Yeah.
Of like that once this like person is gone, or if anybody has experienced loss, like it's not just this like clean cut that oftentimes comes back up, like if you're entering into familiar situations or something where you're like, fuck, I want to call my cousin or my mom or my brother, and you can't, that initially you're like, I don't know what the fuck to do. But then I don't know if this is the experience y'all have had, but like a lot of the times if I'm trying to figure out, like, I wonder what they would have said or what they would have done here, that helps, right? Like it's a cool way to sort of be able to like remember somebody like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, I think, emblematic of like the genre of coming of age, where very frequently coming of age stories involve a certain loss that then after that occurs, the like main character has to pick up and figure out like how to proceed without what they've lost. And so it's sort of like an effective way to communicate like how the little brother has been changed by this experience, how he is like entering a new phase of his life and adulthood and taking responsibility in a way that he did not previously do because he had his older brother to rely on. It's just gut wrenching. And I will say too, like, I think that is reflected kind of in the final cut scene that you get where after you've like healed your dad, he's well again. You go and return to the graveyard where your mother's grave is, and there's another grave next to hers for the older brother. And the last shot of the game is the father like on his hands and knees sobbing over the loss of his older son. And the little brother is just like staring stoically at the horizon. That fucking got me. That was so brutal because what does it say about like where this character's mindset is now, where it's like it's not like I'm gonna be strong for it's like kind of it's obviously tragic, but like it is tragic not only for the loss of the older brother but for like what it means for like how the younger brother now approaches and sees the world. And that like the way that they communicate that with no words is like amazing. It's unreal. Good game.
It was that ending shot is pretty brutal. I was like gonna be pretty comfortable if like little guy just gave dad some water and then he's like, I'm better now. But yeah, I think you're right that it says a lot more about like, it's unfortunately seems like little brother seems like he thinks he has to be strong for dad now too, which is like, that's brutal, man. That's not a good spot to be in.
I'm your son, but I'm also your brother now.
I think also like you talked earlier about how this is a story about like loss and grief and like kind of like what it does to you. And I think that like, I don't know, it ties together that theme in a really like good but brutal way.
Gaming.
Yeah. Sometimes it makes you cry.
I have to say I'm so glad that you all like this game so much. And I'm so glad that it holds up, because I played it a decade ago, and also a decade ago I was like, BioShock Infinite is the best game I've played my whole life. So I was really worried that it wasn't going to be as like nuanced or as impactful as I remembered it being, and I'm really glad that it is. So
yeah. Not only that, but it looks fucking great.
It does look great.
Like I wouldn't have I wouldn't have known that it was a game from 10 years ago. Because it's just like, it has like a really great art style, I think, that is not like trying to be hyper realistic. And so it still feels fresh and new.
Yeah. It looks like a good looking indie game. And like, that's what it looks like.
I feel like whenever they get right up on somebody, I'm like, it's a little interesting. But anytime, and this is usually the case where it's pulled back a little bit farther so you can see the whole level, it's amazing. Like the art style looks really good from that perspective. So it, really only when I'm like looking at what these brothers look like am I like, I don't know. But
the scenery is gorgeous.
The scenery's great.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
it's about your two sons.
It's about your two sons and your two thumbs.
It's about your two sons and now your trauma as well.
Right.
Yeah.
I lost my thumb, Greg. God. Cool. Do y'all have any other lingering thoughts about this game?
No, I'm excited to play it again in 10 years.
Every decade.
Yeah, just once a decade. Yeah. No, I think this is just like a really special game, and I do think I'll revisit it, again in several years. But it was just really nice to be able to have that experience with Tara, and for her at the end to be like, I hate you and thank you for making me play that game. Because like I said, she's not a gamer. So she doesn't experience, I don't think she's ever experienced a story like that in the medium of gaming, And so I think the game is the perfect length and perfect amount of difficult for a non-gamer to experience and be impacted by. And I think that is just a really special thing that people should be able to have. And I'm glad that we all had it.
It's such a specific thing that games can do too, like what this game is doing. There are plenty of games that I think are invoking other things, specifically movies. I feel like you see that a lot with like Last of Us or Uncharted or like most of Sony's first party lineup, which I like just for, good measure. But I think it's stuff like this is something that you could only do with a video game, which is really neat.
Yeah.
And is well considered. It is not BioShock Infinite. It's not resting on its laurels and assumptions about how games need to be. It's like, what if you were a brothers? Right. And that's good.
Now you're just brother.
What if you were a brother?
Woof.
Anyway, good game.
Good game.
Thanks for suggesting it, AJ.
Thanks for playing it.
Yeah. Here's where I fade out and go into the outro.
Okay, cool.
Here's music. Hello, gamers. This is the outro now.
We're here.
Welcome to the outro.
Welcome to the outro.
Transition.
Yeah, crushing this one. Normally, I tell people who listen here that you can go to podtimism.com to find any of our stuff, links to stuff and emails, and you can suggest a game for us to play there. We've got a log of things that we're going to be playing. I think I might know what the next one is, but we'll see. Yeah, you can check our backlog there to see if we've already talked about something in case you're like, dude, when did they play Hulk Ultimate Destruction? I want to hear about that. And we did. So you can go and listen to that one. If you want to help out the show, there's a couple things you can do. One is review it on podcatcher of choice, yada, yada, yada. Thank you. I'm trying to get to the part where I thank Scout for her work on our podcast art. She's very good at what she does. ko-fi.com/humblegoat. Get it. Got it. AJ and Kim, where can people find you two on the internet?
I'm AJ Fileri everywhere. I've got a Blue Sky. I've got a Mastodon. I have an X. I'm also on Instagram. But Kim and I also work on Asynchronous Video Game Catch-Up Show, which at the time of this episode's release, we will have just finished recording our final episode. So I guess listen to that on Thursday if you've played through all of Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, don't listen if you haven't and don't want to be spoiled.
Yeah.
Because it is the very end of the game.
Yeah. We also have a backlog of the other two Mass Effect games and 13 Sentinels and Fire Emblem Three Houses. So if those are games you're interested in or interested in playing, why don't you play through them with the episodes of our show? I think
play along with us.
Yeah, play along with us. It was helpful for us to have the show to push us through, especially Three Houses for me, because it's not a game that I would have stuck with probably. But yeah, and then we also co-work on Frog of the Week, but you can talk about that one, Kim.
Yeah, sure. You can find that one at weeklyfrogpod.tumblr.com or frogpod.online, and you, in the most recent async, I said, don't find me, but you can find me. I'm at okimmies.tumblr.com, and recently made a side blog to talk about the books that I'm reading, because I finally started reading again, except that one's secret. So if you manage to find it somehow, then you win a prize.
Okay.
The prize is being able to read what you read about the books.
Yeah,
Is this going to
it's
be
not
an
much.
ARG?
Maybe it will now. I wasn't planning on doing that. It was genuinely just like I'm a person who used to love to read and then went to law school and promptly stopped reading for fun for the last 8 years of my life. And now finally I'm getting back into it, and I just wanted to keep track of the books that I'm reading just for fun. So it's just for me and whoever is industrious enough to track it down.
I just learned some fun audio tricks. We could maybe sneak it in here underneath me talking.
It's indecipherable to the ears. You have to download this .wav file.
Perfect.
The only way to find it is to play a very specific single-player tabletop RPG. And at that point, you will find a map to the Tumblr URL or something. I don't know.
Yes.
Nailed it.
Async is a very good podcast. Thank you, too, for making it. Frog of the Week is a very good podcast. Thank you for making it. This has been a pleasure. Thank you both for coming and hanging out.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, of course. Both Dave and I are big fans of the work you two do. So it's a kindness to come and hang out with us here.
Yes.
Big fan of Podtimism, so it's an honor to be here.
I'm a big Podtimism head. So. I got my Truck Thulu back tat, but it's still healing, so I don't want to show you yet.
Sure. Yeah. Bold move. I hope Truck Thulu doesn't get canceled in the future or something.
Just gonna get milkshake trucked.
Oh no.
Oh God.
Milkshake trucked is so good.
David, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Do you have any gaming wisdom for us?
Ooh.
Grief is really hard to process, but when you have a lot of friends to process it with you, it makes it a little bit easier.
Damn.
Wow.
That's good. May I add one addition to that?
Please, Kim.
Which I consider to be the moral of Brother is a Tale of Two Sons. Don't be horny. Don't be horny, because that's how Big Bro got.
Oh man.
Is that he was too horny.
That would be the Brothers Grimm.
Let that be a lesson to us all.
Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can sort of clock from a little bit earlier, a little bit farther away, I think this person might be a spider.
She sure could jump really far.
She jumped like a 12-foot gap. She ripped open a locked wooden door.
She's just doing cartwheels and flips like nothing. She's scaling walls.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Should have told us something.
Anyway.
Don't
be horny.
If your horniness causes grief, get some friends.
If you get so horny, you get sad. Call a friend.
Call a friend up. I'm too horny right now. Can you help me?
I need to talk to you before I go wander into a spider's lair.
Exactly. Talk me down, bro. Talk me down.
See you next week, gamers.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.